Today's major news from Korea. The police, which conducted a supplementary investigation into the Songnam FC suspicion of the Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung, completed a complementary investigation against the party leader by applying a third-party bribery charge. Initially, last year, the police judged that there was no problem in the case and did not appeal Lee, but after the prosecution requested a supplementary investigation, in the process of re-investigation, it was concluded that Lee Jae-myung, the leader of the party, was suspected of a crime. The Gyeonggi Nambu Police Agency's Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Investigation Team announced on the 13th that it notified the prosecution of the results of an investigation that applied the charge of bribery to a third party under the Act on Aggravated Punishment of Specific Crimes to party leader Lee Jae-myung. In addition, one Songnam City official who was in charge of the relevant work at the time was also booked on the same charges and handed over to the prosecution. The police also notified the prosecution of charges of bribery under the Criminal Code against former Dusan ENC CEO, who was requested for a supplementary investigation along with party leader Lee Jae-myung. In the case of a case for which a supplementary investigation request has been received from the prosecution, since the case has already been forwarded, it is sufficient to notify the result of the investigation. Party chairman Lee Jae-myung is accused of receiving 5 billion won in donations in exchange for changing the use of a hospital site in Bundang-gu, Songnam, owned by the Dusan Group from 2014 to 2016, when he was the mayor of Songnam and the owner of Songnam FC. The Bundang police station, which initially investigated the case, decided that Lee Jae-myung, the leader of the party, was not guilty and dismissed the case. However, the police, which started a supplementary investigation at the request of the prosecution, judged that Songnam City changed its use in return for receiving donations from the Dusan Group based on the data obtained through the seizure and search and meaningful statements from relevant persons. The police did not see any problem with the allegation that Songnam FC employees, who had signed a sponsorship contract at the time, received large amounts of incentives. According to Songnam FC's internal regulations, the incentives were paid normally, and it was not confirmed that the funds flowed into the party's leader, Lee Jae-myung. The allegation of preferential treatment for Songnam FC is that Songnam City changed its use to Dusan ENC for the construction of a new office building in return for the donations. In October 2014, Dusan ENC sent an official letter stating that it would consider sponsoring Songnam FC if the use of a hospital site in Bundang-gu, Songnam SI was changed for the construction of a new office building in Songnam SI. 9 months later, Songnam City announced a plan to build Dusan Group's new office building in accordance with the change of use. 3 months later, Songnam FC and Dusan ENC signed an advertisement agreement, and Songnam FC received a sponsorship from Dusan. Currently, the Bundang Dusan Tower, where Dusan Group affiliates gather, is located on the site of the hospital. However, as the accuser filed an objection, the case was transferred to the Songnam branch of the Suwon District Prosecutor's Office. The prosecution requested a supplementary investigation from the police in February of this year, and the police conducted a re-investigation in May, including forcibly investigating the Dusan ENC headquarters, Songnam FC Club Office, and Songnam City Hall. It was confirmed that 260 billion won of government funds invested in local governments for the supply of new and renewable energy such as solar power were poorly executed. Illegal activity occurred in 17% of solar installation financial support projects. This is the result of the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's extensive review of the Moon Jae-in administration's policies related to renewable energy. The Government Joint Anti-Corruption Promotion Team of the Office of Government Policy Coordination announced on the 13th that as a result of checking the operation status of the Electricity Industry Infrastructure Fund project in 12 of 226 local governments nationwide from September last year to August this year, a total of 2,267 cases of insolvency were discovered. The total project cost is 261.6 billion won, which means that 12% of the total 2.1 trillion won of the project cost to be inspected was poorly executed. As a result of the government investigation, a total of 1,406 cases of financial support for new and renewable energy such as photovoltaic energy were found to be illegal loans worth 184.7 billion won. It was found that they received excessive loans by issuing false tax invoices and inflating the cost of installation and construction, and received loans by constructing facilities on farmland where solar power facilities cannot be installed under the current law. Some local governments did not properly inspect documents related to construction cost loans in accordance with the provisions of the law. About 17% of the solar power business, which accounts for most of the financial support, was found to be insolvent. According to the government, 1,126 of the 6,497 cases of the Korea Energy Agency's solar power generation facility installation support project for 3 years from 2019 were illegal contracts with unregistered companies or violation of subcontracting regulations. A total of 845 cases of illegal execution of subsidies related to support projects in areas around power plants were confirmed, with a project cost of 58.3 billion won. Cases of allegedly wasting budget and providing preferential treatment to a specific company by splitting construction contracts were discovered, cases of misappropriation of subsidies by manipulating subsidy settlement statements, and cases of unfairly executing the remaining project expenses after the project was discovered. In the convergence project to install new and renewable energy source facilities, a budget of KRW 25.6 billion was wasted over the past 4 years. The government said, as a result of this inspection, it was found that the overall moral hazard was serious in the accounting process of the Electric Power Industry Infrastructure Fund project. In addition, a total of 16 cases of illegal activities such as bid rigging related to the fund project and preferential treatment for the purchase of a specific company for solar power generation equipment were discovered, with a project cost of KRW 18.6 billion. This is the first time the government has inspected the operation status of the electricity-based fund project. The government said, according to the case, the investigation agency will request the investigation of the discovered matters, and the relevant agencies will take measures to recover the unreasonable subsidy with thorough will. Plan, he said. The Electric Power Industry Infrastructure Fund project supports the supply of new and renewable energy such as solar power, support for surrounding areas of power plants, and electric power R&D. It is a policy of the Moon Jae-in government that attempted to expand the proportion of new and renewable energy in nuclear power-centered energy policy. This inspection is interpreted as part of the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's beating the former government, which emphasized the revival of nuclear power plants. Former Defense Minister Song Young-moo, former Defense Security Commander Lee Sok-gu, and Director of the Military Human Rights Center Lim Tae-hoon on charges of leaking a second-class confidential document related to the Armed Forces Security Command on the 14th, and intentionally distorting the contents of the document to testify against reality. It was announced on the 13th that he would file a complaint with the Supreme Prosecutor's Office. An official from the People's Power National Security Disturbance Investigation Task Force said in a phone call on the same day, "We will file a complaint with the Supreme Prosecutor's Office on the 14th for abuse of power and violation of the Military Secret Protection Act." According to the passport and military authorities, the People's Power TF said in the indictment that even though the Moon Jae-in administration knew that the Park Geun-hye government's martial law document created in February 2017 was a simple review report, it tried to use it politically by framed for a rebellion. It is said to have been claimed for the purpose. It is argued that the Defense Minister Song Young-moo at the time recognized that there was no illegality in the martial law document, through reports from Lee Sok-gu, commander of the security service, and legal advice from the Chief Audit Officer Choi Jae-hyung, but he abused it politically. ATF official said, the document on martial law was prepared under the instructions of then Minister of National Defense Han Min-koo to review the martial law procedure for the literally worst case right after the impeachment of former President Park Geun-hye in February 2017. There was no action plan to send to the unit at all, he said. He continued, when Commander-in-Chief Lee Sok-gu reported a document on martial law to Song on March 16, 2018, Song received legal advice from then Chief Auditor General Choi Jae-hyung. Also, as a result of inquiries from the legal circles, the position came out that there was no problem with the preparation plan for the worst-case scenario, and the minister also mentioned that I thought the same thing. In particular, the Civil-Military Joint Investigation Team, which was launched under the direction of former President Moon Jae-in in August 2018, investigated 287 referees for 3 months and searched and confiscated 90 places, but found no evidence related to the alleged coup d'état, the TF reported. In addition, the Army headquarters issued disciplinary measures to 2 security officers, but on June 30 this year, the Ministry of National Defense Disciplinary Appeals Review Committee dismissed the charges. The TF side argued that the process of a second-class military secret, the security guard's documents being suddenly leaked to the outside, was suspicious and that this should also be investigated. Problems in the investigation and trial procedures related to the private inspection of the Swole ferry were also raised. The TF side said, the Supreme Prosecutor's Office organized a special investigation team to investigate the Swole ferry, and it was found that there were no illegal inspections of the survivors. This is illegal. An official from the People's Power said, the controversy over the martial law documents and the Swole ferry inspection inflated and distorted some facts, and it seems that they eventually disbanded the security agency, a security organization at the forefront of security and counterintelligence, in an unfair way. Done, he said. As soon as the complaint is received on the 14th, the Supreme Prosecutor's Office is expected to go through even the accusers to investigate the accused, including former Minister Song Young-moo, Ambassador Lee Sok-gu, and General Lim Tae-hoon. In response to North Korea's adoption of a nuclear force law capable of preemptive strike, the military authorities said, we warn that if North Korea attempts to use nuclear weapons, it will face an overwhelming response from South Korea and the United States, and the North Korean regime will be on a path of self-destruction. Moon Hong-sik, deputy spokesperson for the Ministry of National Defense, answered the question the military's position on the adoption of North Korea's nuclear force policy law at a regular briefing on the 13th. Deputy spokesperson Moon said, in close cooperation with the U.S., the Ministry of National Defense will further strengthen the enforcement power of the ROK-US Alliance for Extended Deterrence and further strengthen the deterrence against the North Korean nuclear threat, such as the groundbreaking expansion of the South Korean-style three-axis system and the establishment of the Strategic Command, so that North Korea cannot use its nuclear weapons. Well, he emphasized. This is an official response from the military, 4 days after North Korea announced that it had adopted a nuclear force policy law that would allow it to launch a nuclear preemptive strike against South Korea and others. This measure taken by North Korea will further strengthen the deterrence and response capabilities of the ROK-US alliance, lead to isolation from the international community, and only exacerbate the suffering of the North Korean people, said a deputy spokesperson for the Ministry of National Defense. The South Korean government's position to pursue complete denuclearization of North Korea is firm, he added. Regarding the adoption of the North Korean nuclear force law, the Ministry of National Defense evaluated, the main contents of the legislation announced by North Korea are those that the ROK and the United States have already anticipated and prepared for through close cooperation. The Ministry of Unification also emphasized with one voice that there is no change in North Korea's denuclearization policy. An official from the Ministry of Unification said on the same day, although Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea expressed a negative stance on denuclearization, what is important for us is ultimately to create an environment in which North Korea can give up its nuclear weapons and to move on the path of denuclearization on its own. Said. Regarding the timing of North Korea's 7th nuclear test, the official said, we judge that North Korea is ready to conduct a nuclear test at any time as long as it is determined by Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea. They seem to be considering both internally and externally. Previously, on the 8th of this month, North Korea held the Supreme People's Assembly, the mission of the nuclear force, the composition of the nuclear force, the command and control of the nuclear force, the execution of decisions on the use of nuclear weapons, the principle of use of nuclear weapons, the conditions for using nuclear weapons, and the routine mobilization of nuclear force. Adopted the Nuclear Forces Policy Act, which consists of posture, safe maintenance and protection of nuclear weapons, mass strengthening and renewal of nuclear force, radio wave prevention, and others. This act stipulates that as conditions for the use of nuclear weapons, when it is judged that an attack with a nuclear weapon or other weapons of mass destruction has been carried out or is imminent, a situation that causes a catastrophic crisis to the existence of the state and the life safety of the people occurs in response with nuclear weapons. In cases where unavoidable circumstances arise. All 5 conditions of use include the use of nuclear weapons even when an attack or an imminent sign of an attack on the state leadership and the state nuclear force command body is imminent. Threatened to use. Thank you for watching today. Please subscribe and set an alarm.